Well, President Trump drops an F-bomb on Iran and Israel after they both double-cross his big, beautiful ceasefire.
This is why the Middle East can't have nice things, but Donald Trump is working to change that.
Representative Andy Ogles will be here to explain why the big, beautiful bill will get passed if Congress has to stay in D.C. for July 4th.
Yeah, the way a lot of people are talking, you'd think making lawmakers work holidays is basically Guantanamo Bay.
And this isn't Obama's White House. We'll break down how Trump is redefining American foreign policy for the better.
It's not just the deployment of weaponized memes that's been a total game changer.
Blaze News, The Mandate, starts right now. Good evening, Patriots. I'm Jill Savage, joined by Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
We're in full summer mode here in Texas, and I think across the country right now. It feels good.
Absolutely. And Donald Trump was riding high last night after declaring Iran and Israel had agreed to a ceasefire. But we know they can't seem to play too nice for too long. So Donald Trump expressed his frustration after the two sides launched missiles at each other once again.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Sometimes you just have to say it like it is. Here to weigh in is Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles. Congressman, thanks for joining us once again. Not a slow news day, fair to say here.
Well, like I said earlier on another hit was that, the only thing hotter than the temperatures across the country is all the winning. President Trump bombed Iran, sent them back to the Stone Ages, ended their nuclear ambitions, the tariff debate and getting countries to renegotiate what they pay, and, of course, securing the southern border. But that being said, what happened in Iran is serious and it needed to take place. And a lot of people misunderstand. The president, like previous presidents have taken unilateral action to strike military installations that posed a potential imminent threat to the homeland. That's what the president did, ended Iran's nuclear ambitions, and it was the right thing to do.
So there's a fight at home as well, right? I mean, as the big, beautiful bill has yet to reach his desk, a fight that you're very much involved with. So, Congressman, you've got into the action calling on your colleagues to stay through the 4th of July if the bill still hasn't passed. And if that happens, you proposed a big, beautiful barbecue on the Capitol lawn,
That's right.
Which I love. But explain to us what's the holdup with this bill.
Well, look, it's big. It's the bigger a bill is, the more complicated it is. In both the House and the Senate, you have slim majorities and people are, this tug of war that takes place. But look, we have an opportunity to take back the narrative and, quite frankly, to start taking steps in the right direction. So we didn't get into this mess overnight. Incrementalism with Obama and Biden literally chipped away at our liberty, chipped away at our financial and fiscal freedom. It's now a national security issue when you look at our debt. And so with this big, beautiful bill, it's not perfect. Yes, I want more. I'm literally ranked one of the most conservative members of Congress. But this is the first step because we're going to have two bites at the rescission apple. We have the 26 and 27 budgets right around the corner, not to mention all the rescissions that we can do in the meantime. So we can cut, and we can do more. But this is the first step. It's like building a house. We've got to start somewhere. This is the foundation, that first step in a process where we get our fiscal house in order.
And in D.C., things usually don't get done by the 4th of July. Like, this feels a little early out there for this. So what needs to get done in order to avoid this big, beautiful barbecue that we're going to potentially have out there?
Well, I think we should stay this weekend. I think we should stay during the holiday. I think we should get this done. But part of what you're doing here by making the Trump tax cuts permanent, you're signaling to the markets, the stock market, the bond market, here's our fiscal house. Here's the tax policies that you're now operating under. You're sending to that small business owner a message that, hey, this is the time to reinvest capital into your business or to hire new employees. If you have a foreign company looking to reinvest or nearshore or reshore jobs to the United States States of America. They know what the playing field is. This is incredibly important because if we can set loose this American economy, the greatest economy in the world, the big, beautiful bill will do that. Again, it's not perfect. It's big. I don't know how beautiful it really is, but it's the first step in igniting our economy, and we've got to do this and do it now. And when we do that and inflation comes down and the economy's booming, interest rates are coming down, this is what we need to fix things. And again, it's the first step. I want more. I'm a fiscal hawk. I want to cut more. I want to rein in all of the bad policies, but we've got to get this done. And look, I don't think we should leave. I don't think we should leave this weekend. I don't think we should leave on the 4th of July. We need to stay here and we need to get this done. Promises made to the American people, and it's now that we keep those promises.
So, I mean, the president has made his opinion clear on this, and you know, and you've said, look, we have to stay through. What do you think of the chances are that happening at this point? I mean, what are people saying and talking amongst your colleagues?
Well, this is why leadership matters. You know, you have the commander-in-chief who's indicating this is incredibly important to his agenda, and quite frankly, the midterms. That's not why we're doing it, but it's important to the midterms. It's in the stock and the bond markets, again, to foreign investment, to national security. But look, I have plans for the 4th of July, too. I'd much rather be at home with my family having a barbecue there. But if it means staying here and having a barbecue on the Capitol lawn, but then by George, that's what we do because we have a job to do. We were elected to stay here and get this done. No excuses, no delays. And if we need to be locked into a room and we need to work out the details, then by George, that's what we need to do. No going home, folks. Cancel your trips, cancel your plans, pack a long bag because we're in this for the long haul. That should be the message from leadership because that's certainly the message from the President of the United States. And quite frankly, that's what the American people want.
That is pretty refreshing to hear. Now, something that's not so great when we look at all of the Democrats, your Congressman Al Green submitted another article of impeachment against Donald Trump. Let's go ahead and take a look.
HRES 537 has been filed because I believe that the President of the United States has committed an impeachable act.
Well, we've seen this film before, right? They've been all unsuccessful so far, so why do they go and keep trying this time and time and time again?
Well, look, at the end of the day, the Democrats are in disarray. They don't have a plan. They don't have good policy. And quite frankly, they don't have principles to stand on. And so I believe that Al Green needs to sit down and shut up. We have a job to do. We have national security threats that are real. We have an economy that needs to be fixed. We have interest rates that need to go down. And all of that hinges on us getting our job done with this big, beautiful bill. I've had enough of his rhetoric. All he does is mouth off. He never offers any solutions. Again, it's time that we get our jobs done, and him going up there and offering articles of impeachment, which I have done against Biden for allowing our country to be invaded by illegals, which was probable cause and a reason to do it. But because he doesn't like President Trump is not an excuse to disrupt the House proceedings and try to weaponize the impeachment process.
You know, what's interesting at this point is you have to wonder, like, what is the positive vision that unites the Democrats? And I'd say this just objectively. I mean, they seem to be sort of all over the place. I mean, what do you think's going on over there?
Well, I think, quite frankly, you know, their policies that they veered too far to the left. They went woke, and quite frankly, they're going broke, politically speaking. That's why President Trump won all of the battleground states. That's why he overwhelmingly won the Electoral College and the popular vote. Is because America's had enough of this nonsense. Now, we'll see what happens in the city of New York with their election, but my hope is that the people will stand up, the people of the city of New York, and will not vote for this socialist anti-Semite. But that being said, if that's the bet that they want to make for themselves, then so be it. But meanwhile, we have an opportunity as Republicans to lead this country because the Democrats are in disarray because they don't have a vision. They don't have a plan. The only thing that unites them is their disdain for Donald Trump and Republicans.
Well, the one thing that I'm looking forward to on July 4th is the fact that this president has initiated an actual celebration of the 250th anniversary of America. And I know that they're going to start in Iowa, I think July 3rd, right? Jill, I think it's July 3rd. So they're going to initiate that, and that'll be going on throughout the course of the next year. That just strikes me as something so important for people right now and throughout this country. Could you speak a little bit to that? I mean, we've been so beat down for so long. The educational system is so far gone. And I just see, I really think that people are gravitating to this already. It's such an incredible idea that this administration has made, an important part of their priorities for the next year.
You think about, Lee Greenwood's song, "I'm proud to be an American." And that's something that really strikes to the core of President Trump. He's truly proud to be an American. And he's reinstilling that with the celebrations of our military, with the 4th of July, with our anniversaries and our birthdays of this country. And so, when you look throughout the Biden administration and how military recruitment was down, and yet now under President Trump, I do believe that most of the branches have already hit their yearly quota. But if not, they're certainly up well over what Biden was doing. Why? Because people want to be or are proud to be an American again under the Biden administration. The leftists, the radical leftists were burning cities and anti-police and anti-America. Meanwhile, this president said, you know what? I'm an American. I'm proud to be an American. I'm going to salute the flag. Quite frankly, there's a picture of him hugging the American flag. When he was shot, he raised his fist and say, I'm not going to stop fighting. I'm going to fight for this country. I'm going to fight for you. That's what people want in a leader. And that's why President Trump won his reelect. And quite frankly, I think if he had the option of running for a third term, he would actually win overwhelmingly, because people see this new vision, this golden age of America that is being unveiled before their eyes. And quite frankly, as you say, it's a breath of fresh air, a ray of sunlight that America has long been waiting for.
As the kids say, the vibe shift is real, and it's going to pay lasting dividends, because this is now going to be something where you don't have to be ashamed to love your country. You can actually boldly proclaim that you just love America, and you're not going to be chastised for it. Representative Andy Ogles, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more right after this. We know that family farms keep shutting down, and it's because all the meat from your grocery store, it's actually coming from overseas. There's different quality standards for all that. Even though they say that 85% of the so-called grass-fed beef on your U.S. shelves, it's not from here. It's actually imported. That's why you need to go get all your meat from goodranchers.com, because it's not just about buying meat. It's actually about supporting American ranchers, getting that top-tier quality and actually knowing where your food comes from. We were just talking about patriotism. This feels good. Good Ranchers sells meat that's only 100% born, raised, and harvested right here in the United States from local family farms, and you will taste the difference, whether it's going to be for a barbecue for the 4th of July in D.C. or one right at your house. Don't settle for any mystery meat, because America's birthday, you need to have 100% American meat. So if you subscribe today, you can get your free pick of meat for life. You can choose from Wagyu burgers, hot dogs, bacon, or wings in every box for the lifetime of your subscription. Plus, when you use my code Jill at checkout, you'll get an extra $40 off. So visit goodranchers.com to shop American meat that you can trust. Use that code Jill and go to goodranchers.com. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. Last week, Representatives Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna introduced a bill to limit Trump's wartime powers. Then, as we all know, Trump bombed the Iranian nuclear facilities and not much happened. DC correspondent Chris Bedford joins us now for an update. So, Chris, we talked about this, like a week ago or so. There was a lot of talk. So, what's the deal with this resolution that we were told, we were going to get? Did it just fizzle out?
Yeah. You could say that. And it more than fizzled out. It was dead on arrival. The reason for that, at least now, in the battles that we're fighting and the wars that we're fighting, all of the engagements abroad that the United States takes part in, all of the different countries that we launch bombs at, we'll say in their peace bombs, everything about the Department of Defense does that's Department of War related, comes down to the reality that the Senate and the House, more so the Senate, really don't like hard votes. The Republicans, you might remember, were so relieved when Roe v. Wade came down, when Dobbs first came down, eliminating Roe v. Wade, because they thought, okay, now that's finally in the background. Then they realized, oh no, it came back. What are we going to do? They don't want to make hard votes on the wall. They don't want to make hard votes on immigration enforcement. They want someone else, the executive, to do all those things for them so they can focus on the meaningful things like spending money and raising money. So because of that, And the fact that so many members of Congress and so many members of the Senate really do kind of like war. They think that a belligerent American foreign policy is the key to the relative peace that the United States has enjoyed since World War II. They think that our ability to reach out and just touch people without there being much consequence, as George W. Bush said after 9/11 and the beginning of Iraq and Afghanistan, Americans should go out and buy more things. To them, that's kind of an ideal situation. And they also remember things like Senator Bernie Sanders' run against Hillary Clinton in 2016. When I remember sitting there at a cafeteria, a gymnasium in a New Hampshire high school, and everyone was booing this Republican or that Republican. But when he got up to Hillary Clinton, he kept on listing off her offenses and the things that she had done, and the crowd got more and more riled up. And then when he finished with, and she voted for the war in Iraq, that place shook like I have never seen a political rally shake, with just roars of anger. And, senators look at that and they say, wouldn't it be great if we didn't even have to vote on that? If we could just criticize the president and say, we don't like that call, or we can congratulate the president and say, we like that call. But no one actually asks us. They kind of prefer to be on the sidelines, a peanut gallery, and they've given up oversight. So until that changes, you're not going to see real momentum.
Yeah, that's well said. And this is an interesting one because, I mean, the War Powers Resolution coming up from the 1970s that Congress did pass is something that presidents really have on principle disregarded in the sense that they don't think it's constitutional. No presidential power, no one who sits in that office wants to say that Congress can check them in these kinds of incidents, because they want to say that they have the authority, right, to decide when there's an emergency. It all revolves around what the declaration of war means. And this is an important constitutional issue that has been going on for a long time, right? It's been simmering in the background for a long time, given the nature of the weapons we have. And so, I mean, you're right to point it out as an example, because if you were concerned with the power of Congress or the power of the U.S. Senate, you identified your power, your honor, your prestige with that institution, then they would be very concerned with this issue. This would be one of the primary themes of what senators who were serious would be fighting and trying to wrest power back and forth from the executive. But we don't really see that at all. So I guess this is a perfect example of the fecklessness of Congress, right? Because they threw this out there basically because of the attention going to this particular conflict. But nothing happened. Do you think there's anyone in there who actually cares about this kind of stuff?
There are a couple people like Mike Lee, Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, but some of those people are also really politically impotent, and they're not consulted on major decisions because they're known as people who don't want to play ball. They're known as people who can't be negotiated with, but they have some strong stances. Not Mike Lee, but some of the others. They have on not playing ball. These guys, they have some strong stances, and some of them they can have an impact, and other ones are kind of just yelling into the wind. I mean, Congress surrendered oversight of the executive in general, and that includes war powers. They've given up on. They don't want to actually hold hearings. They don't want to actually really dig in. They want to grandstand, but they're not necessarily get to the bottom of things. They're not asking serious questions in good faith. They're just attacking the witnesses from the other party or the person from the other party. And this goes both ways. This is Republicans and Democrats. And then both sides will go on their chosen primetime shows that evening, and they'll crow about the things that they said, and they'll use that to raise money. That's just kind of the role that Congress has put itself in. And this is a place, an interesting spot where the framers were wrong, that Congress would jealously guard its power, the legislative would. That doesn't actually seem to be the case. They will jealously guard their fundraising. They'll jealously guard appropriations still. They're really interested in their ability to spend money. But in relation to the executive, they just don't want to be held to account. How many Republican and Democrat senators out there, for even us, if someone were to quiz you, name every single Republican senator. I cover them for a living. I would definitely miss some. I could name the states. It's not every single senator, and folks who are paying a little bit less attention certainly wouldn't have either. The amount of people I met in D.C. who do this for a living, who'd never heard of that California senator who rushed Kristi Noem's press conference until he did that. It's because so few of them actually do anything. And you can kind of tell, like when they retire or when they pass away, you'll see these either political or life obituaries talking about they stood for the disenfranchised and for women, and they stood for the underprivileged, and they stood it. But almost none of them actually reference a bill. None of them actually reference, and this person did this consequential action that made this impact on these people's lives. They were just a fighter for justice. And some of them aren't really doing anything other than raising money and staying in power, and they're comfortable there.
There is one person that we actually haven't mentioned on the show in quite some time, and that is Jasmine Crockett. Now, she went out today and was talking about Iran, and she said, I'm the one that's supposed to be making the decision. She threw a bad word in the middle of there that we're not allowed to say on television. But Chris, there are still people out there that want to say, no, it's me. I'm the one with the power. I'm sorry. Are you the executive? I don't believe you are, Jasmine Crockett.
No, she's that rare, wonderful case. I love her. She's great. She's so much fun to click on, to watch her videos. I mean, classy, dumb people can be rather entertaining, and trashy, smart people can be super entertaining, definitely. But when you're trashy and stupid, sometimes it's just a combination that's hysterical, but you don't really want to be around them. And what's weird about her watching this, same thing with AOC and some other folks, is when they come out and they say these just kind of stupid things. Everyone around them, the people that surround themselves with, nod and say, yes, preach. That's right. That's the way. It's not the way. It's not true. They don't actually know what they're talking about. It's a perfect example of the complete and total decline in civics education by people who actually are supposed to be governing us. The fact that we're kind of governed by stupid people more often than we're governed by evil people. And I'll tell you that I remember visiting some of the friends' houses of people who've become rather influential in Washington, important in the Senate, important in the White House, and they're reading 100-year-old books on operations of the House and Senate. They're reading the memoirs of people long past who existed and lived during a time and governed during a time when they had a real impact. They're studying Senate procedure. The people who know Senate procedure in and out and understand the history of the Senate are in higher demand than someone who can work on a 1930s car in Cuba. They're absolute gold. And that's just because they read imminently attainable information, which, granted, I call them most of the time. I'm not reading those really long tomes. I've got a million things going on myself. But so few people in Washington who are in those positions are taking advantage of understanding the history, understanding the people who've come before them, understanding the powers they have, understanding how to do different things. And they use it to take advantage of not just a public, but their colleagues who actually don't understand this stuff. So an example would be Mitch McConnell or Senator Harry Reid, the late Senator Harry Reid. These guys understood procedure. They understood history. They understood how the Senate worked. They didn't always use it for conservative ends, very rarely, but they would use it for their own ends, or in Harry Reid's case, for progressive ends, for the control that they were able to exercise. They would tell people the things that they knew were possible were impossible, and everyone would nod and agree. Or they would tell people that things were possible that they had never even thought about because they knew the actual procedural ways to get this accomplished. All of this information is available. So it's just one of those classic things where we assumed that with the World Wide Web and Instagram videos and all this other stuff that we would get more intelligent. But at the end of the day, you do have to crack those dusty old books. And we've forgotten so many more things than we know.
Man, music to my ears, because when I leave here, I will be yelling at young Publius fellows for Claremont, saying exactly what you're saying and telling them to read the words. Read the damn words, because no one does. No one's doing it. But I'm sure Jasmine Crockett's, I'm sure that's coming, Jill, from her deep knowledge of the Constitution. And by the way, I should say for the record, I think I want to see attention from Congress, but I don't actually think what Trump did was unconstitutional. But
no, certainly not by the War Powers Act.
No, and certainly not in the context of post-World War II America. It's not unconstitutional at all. But I'd like to see Congress come back and say, well, hey, this could be a declaration of war because you're essentially starting one. I mean, we want to see that tension. But anyway, yes, read the words. Well, let's talk about another of our favorite activities, rhino hunting. During an appearance on GD Politics, Senator Lisa Murkowski teased that she may be bucking the status quo soon. What does she mean by that, Chris?
Well, do it. She's talking about finally openly becoming a Democrat. I mean, she's kind of a Democrat and all but name, and a lot of the different things that she pushes for. She's not just out of step with the current moment in Republican politics, but she's out of step with the last 15 years of Republican politics, which puts her even out of step with the broader U.S. Senate. Now, there's something to be said for the importance of rhinos in a lot of different cases. There's different Republicans who could not be elected in certain states. Were they not more conservative? Were they not the more moderate or liberal Republicans that they are? And when those people, even when those people aren't going to back you to the hilt on this or that, they're going to back their party on the things usually that generally matter. And Murkowski is one of those folks who can be brought along to vote yes on things that the leader really needs, or the president, if they're a part of the same party, really needs, and can be reliably counted on, like most, to yell from the ramparts when it actually doesn't matter about how it's bad. But Alaska's a different case. Murkowski would be long gone if it wasn't for the fact that she literally rigged the election system in Alaska and put in ranked choice voting. First, she lost a Republican primary, and this was years ago. The Senate, the Senate Majority Caucus or Fund or whatever the heck it was, sent some people who I know, to Alaska to try and figure out how to orchestrate a write-in ballot campaign. They didn't want some Tea Partier in there. And they got her over the finish line, over the Republican, by running as an independent with a write-in ballot. That was impressive work that a lot of Republicans have since come to deeply regret. They find it a lot easier to work with someone like Mike Lee, who is a principled conservative, than they do with Murkowski. Although Murkowski can usually be bribed with some kind of payoff for this or that thing that has to do with Alaska. Then she put in the ranked choice voting, which basically means that she may be the second or third option for a lot of actual Alaskan voters, because many of them do lean, at least libertarian version of Republican. But she wins because of the way that her opposition is so disparate and so spread out and so hard to actually get in line in some kind of concerted campaign. So if she would decide to run again, I don't think she will. If she wants to put a D next to her name, well, that'd be great, because if that's the kind of case, the Republicans would actually be able to get someone who represents better the interests of the Alaskan majority, which supports the president.
Rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go already. What are we waiting for? As MP is going to head out west to shape the young minds, we are eagerly anticipating welcoming Chris Bedford here to what is Jasmine Crockett country, unfortunately, but very excited to have you here in Texas tomorrow either way.
I can't wait. And I will say about the homework that Matt assigns for the fellowships in Claremont, it's like I did the Lincoln one years ago. It's basically a graduate course worth of reading for a week and a half worth of discussion. And it's actually the best read. I actually did all of the homework because it was so fascinating and I loved it. I learned so much. I was lecturing people for the next couple of years on different shows and in different articles. Like, actually, Lincoln at the Lyceum said this completely different thing. And, that might have really irritated them, but it definitely was so enriching, but not quite as enriching as my first cold martini or margarita in Dallas.
Well, reading the words is important, but also cold martinis are probably equally important in life.
Maybe combine them.
Yeah, no ChatGPT back then. Bedford actually had to read all of the words. There was no shortcuts at that point in time. Bedford, thanks so much for the time. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right, don't go anywhere. We'll come back with more right after this. Well, hey, ladies, if you want to go through and share the arrows, if it's been on your mind, just consider this as your sign to go for it. And it's happening on October 11th. It's going to be right here in Dallas. And of course, it's hosted by our very own Allie Beth Stuckey from BlazeTV. It's a day that you're not going to forget. It's not just going to be another women's conference. It's actually a powerful gathering of women who want to live boldly for Jesus and stand in the truth, even the world pushes back. if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling burned out, or you just need a reset, this is your moment. Come be encouraged and challenged and reminded exactly who God made you to be. VIP spots are still available. So head to sharethearrows.com. That's sharethearrows.com for tickets and details. Well, Donald Trump is the commander and communicator in chief. While Joe Biden was letting chaos fester, Donald Trump put the Iranians in a timeout with the world watching, and it's a much needed change. Remember all those daddy home t-shirts when Trump was reelected? Well, right now, it feels like he was the country's parent this last week for the Israel and Iran conflict. MP, like there was so much parenting involved here, and it's good because we had a guy for 4 years who was just out to lunch.
Yeah, and here we have a man after my own heart who stays up all night, Donald Trump. But here he's I don't even know how to describe this because I don't want to make light of an extremely serious situation. But I think everyone has to acknowledge the way in which you just see Trump be Trump when he does diplomacy by tweet, which we've seen before. It's nothing new, but you saw it here, was absolutely incredible. And from the beginning, it reminded one of what it's like to put two kids in timeout. First you announce the ceasefire. I'm going to announce the ceasefire. Good news, everyone. Peace to the world. And then all of a sudden, one of them starts acting up like, oh, no, you better knock that off over there. You better knock that off over there until by morning, Trump just goes and looks at the reporters and says, neither of these countries know what the F they're doing at this point. They hate each other so much. But the upshot, of course, is peace, and the timeout is successful. But there's the way in which he speaks from the heart on it is, I will say this, the effect of this is absolutely endearing to millions of people watching. It's actually helping him immensely. His popularity is going up and is going to continue to go up with people who didn't like him before. And you could see it also when he came out and he gave the first announcement about the bombing, that bit about God, like we love God, which let's be honest, is like sort of awkward and stilted. It's not like language most Christians use, but the way in which he said that, I knew people who don't like him at all, who are theologians, who said that was him at his most endearing. It just seems so authentic. And that's what you've seen over the last 24 hours.
Well, the administration let Vice President J.D. Vance go out and do some media today, and our own Steve Deace was lucky enough to have the vice president on. Let's go ahead and take a look.
And the president just never let that mission creep settle into the way the generals were thinking about it, the diplomats were thinking about it. And I really have to give the president all of the credit here because I think, look, American history has told us that given the situation that he was in, every American president of pretty much my lifetime has made a bad decision in the Middle East. He was able to get in there, do what he said he was going to do, and then put the region back on the path to peace. It's really an incredible thing, and I feel very blessed to live in a country led by the President of the United States.
I think that's such a powerful message because, as he says, everybody else that's tried it over there in the Middle East has basically screwed it up. You can go back and look at Obama's red lines that he was talking about, that he let them just go walk right over time and time again. There's no nation building right now. Donald Trump even went out and said, hey, not into regime change right now. Just went through, dropped the bombs, get out.
Yeah, and so this is the new foreign policy that's emerging. So you think of Hillary Clinton's failed reset button with Russia. I mean, you think of the red lines of Obama, who, by the way, under whose watch Russia took vast tracts of land. So all the talk, all the posturing, all the PhDs, all the Georgetown foreign policy experts, and what you have with Trump is actual success because he people take him seriously when he comes on Twitter and he says these things. They know that he will back up his words with action, and they also know that he has a clear objective. I mean, so he's almost like this master class showing you in a very stark way everything that's wrong with the foreign policy complex in this country.
Yeah, and J.D. Vance, he not only went on shows, he took to Twitter as well. So Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that Iran will never have nukes, and J.D. responded with a lot of foreign policy doctrine. He says, 1, clearly define American interests, 2, negotiate aggressively to achieve that interest, and 3, use overwhelming force if necessary. So not only are they going through, but they're messaging it so well. And I think this is such a problem that Republicans have faced for my entire life is messaging. And to actually go out and get this one right, they they deserve all of this right now.
Yes, and what JD said there very simply is exactly the foreign policy for the 21st century that I was hoping would emerge from this, from the tensions on both sides, the people who just are so sick of all the foreign wars, intervention, they don't want any intervention, and then the people who want to go everywhere in the world and regime change the entire planet Earth. And in between there, you have what you could call realism or old school American foreign policy. It reminds me of Angela Codevilla, a mentor we mentioned a lot here on the show, who was really a towering figure when it came to writing what foreign policy should be in the future in America. And his line in about Afghanistan was so right in Iraq was, if there's a problem there, if there is a problem, you go in and you do what Trump just did. You don't send boots on the ground. You don't try to regime change anything. When you have to do something, you do it and you use the stick, and then you walk away. You let that speak for itself, rather than all the hand wringing and all the meetings and all that sort of thing. Because what happens is severe action, when it's taken quickly and when it's taken, when it's conducted in a way that doesn't lead to escalation, is a powerful, powerful lesson. If you think about where we are right now, even today with Iran, what's the big picture? The big picture is Iran has been humbled in front of the entire world. It's like taking the puppy and turning it over. Like, nope, you're not going to have nuclear weapons. So you can talk all you want about what happens in the future. Like, will we have inspectors come in and whatever? But they have been defeated very quickly and rolled over on their back, and it's done. And this is new, but in a way, it's very old. It goes back to George Washington's farewell address. It goes back to what the foreign policy of the old American Republic used to be. And as JD lays out there in that beautiful tweet with 3 simple points, it's also simple. It's common sense.
The other thing that we know about Donald Trump is, one, if you pat him on the back, he's going to be nice to you. If you say nice things, Donald Trump, he's going to love you. Also, if you're saying things that he wants pushed for his agenda, he might just repost you, which is exactly what happened for our own Auron MacIntyre here at BlazeTV. Auron tweeted out that mass deportations or the country is over. It's the only issue that matters. Expel the foreign invaders while the option still exists. So it's a nice moment there for Auron. He put it out there saying many people are saying this. Of course, this is one of the key issues, and Donald Trump still needs that at the forefront of his policymaking right now.
Oh, yeah. And Auron MacIntyre represents a lot of people out there. Interesting thinker. Great to have him at Blaze. The fact he's being retweeted by the president doesn't surprise me at all. And what he's saying, I think, is felt by many people. Like, okay, let's get that over with now. Let's go back to the main reason we elected you, which is we really do need to see deportations because we dumped at least 20 million people into this country randomly, and we have to take care of that problem.
Deport them all. That is still the messaging going forward. I don't care what they say on the left. So coming up, who do you think that Trump should retweet next from the Blaze? We'll have your answers right after this. Well, sometimes on one of these questions, we can just have some fun with you, right? We love it when Donald Trump is out there, just typing away on Truth Social. So we've seen him post our own Logan Hall before, right? Our digital guy here at The Blaze. So now we actually go through and we see that Donald Trump has recognized another talent here at Blaze Media. So I asked you on X. So Donald Trump reposted Auron MacIntyre today, who is the next Blaze host that Trump should repost. And look at those look at these results right here. Steve Deace, I thought was going to be the winner, but no. Prime Time with Alex Stein is the person that everybody out there in this Twitter sphere, of course, it's out there on Twitter. The people love Prime Time. He's a pimp on a blimp. They want to see Donald Trump go out there and repost our man, Alex Stein.
I mean, this is now a task. This is a goal that Stein needs to take on. He needs the president to RT his content. And I think, he's got lots of targets. Look, Trump just went on that rant about AOC and everyone else and all his enemies. I think that Primetime is up to this. I think he can, for him, it needs to be a video too. We need Donald J. Trump to retweet a Primetime video. I think he can do it.
There's a challenge that is now going to be issued to Primetime 99. We'll see should President Trump accept it. But let's go ahead and get to some of your replies. Steve kept it simple. He said he should be reposting Auron MacIntyre instead. He said, you know what? I don't care about your results here. I'm going to go off the board and I'm going to say Auron MacIntyre is the guy that he just needs to repost. again and again and again. Listen, we love him. We think that Auron is great. We have him on the show all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it mix up a little bit just for the sake of the brand, but I understand where he's coming from. We don't want to hate on anyone who has that much love for Auron.
And people are just hating on my poll results apparently today because let's go ahead and get to Son of Oregon, who says none of the above. He should be reposting Daniel Horowitz, which is a great reply. I will let that one slide because Daniel Horowitz has a lot of great things to say. And I think that if Donald Trump is actually going out there and reposting Daniel Horowitz, things will get redder. This is what Daniel Horowitz posts is red things aren't red enough. And it's a good trajectory there for Daniel Horowitz.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I think that that Horowitz is, Horowitz is someone who would be much better than some of the people he's retweeted in the past. I'll tell you that. And also, I think ultimately there's a lot of agreement there on making those red states redder. So that'd be a good thing.
And let's go ahead and round it out with Auburn Tiger, who replied that he voted for Steve Deace, but he would crack up if Trump posted Alex Stein, calling AOC his big booty Latina. That is what primetime is known for. I don't know that that's going to be the one that'll get Donald Trump's attention. I think that's been out there a little too long. I think Trump is going to need something original from primetime if he's actually going to get that retweet.
Okay, but I don't disagree, but I kind of do. Trump probably hasn't seen the big booty Latina stuff, So if he sees it for the first time, maybe he could retweet it,
He is a little busy right now, so I don't know that this is really going to be the time that he's going to go through. But again, I mean, he did just go through and repost for everybody else. So you never know. Donald Trump, he's going to keep you on your toes.
You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. I don't know. He doesn't know. We don't know.
That is a direct quote, actually, from Donald Trump from like a week ago that he was going out there and saying this. And you know what? Sometimes you don't know things, but sometimes you need real expertise for things. If you put in 10,000 hours, you can figure out how to get better, how to accomplish what you need to accomplish. And I think that's something that the people in Washington, D.C. really need to keep in mind right now.
Yes, and I think the people throughout America, all the elites throughout America, need to keep this in mind, as well as everyone else trying to become successful. So I just can't emphasize enough what Chris Bedford was saying earlier. It is really true. When we talk about people who know how the Senate works or Congress works, we're talking about a handful of people such that we know them. You can get to know them all very easily because they're some of the only people who have looked at this. And this is the case in almost every sector of society, I would say, outside of some areas of business where there's just a lot of smart people. But this is happening over and over again everywhere because people always, classic, right? They just want it. They want the results without having to do the work. And so what we're seeing now is, especially when it comes to politics, are people who they haven't read the words. There's no shortcut to some of this stuff. You have to understand history. There's a reason that, politics wasn't called a science until the last 100 years. Politics and history were together because you had to know the history just to gain the universal principles about how people act in various circumstances, how to respond to various challenges. History is it's like literature. It's like you're reading something. You don't have to experience it yourself. You don't have to go through it yourself with all the pluses and minuses of reality, but you kind of get to go back in time and see what happened, and you glean something from that. And then you get put in more and more situations, and you understand that. The same thing goes for constitutional law. The same thing goes for the rules in Congress. The same thing goes for a wide variety of things, but the amount of people who are willing to put in the work are few and far between. And I don't want to just make this a universal self-help message, like go out there and do the work. My point is that we have a problem in elite society with people who don't want to do the work because they're not in it for the right reasons, and they don't actually give a you-know-what about getting good results. They don't want to be good at the job. They simply want to be known and get the perks. They want to be influencers, right? That's the problem with people in Congress. They all want to be influencers. That's nice, but there's a job to do. And unless you really want to do it and hunger for it, you see your fame, your honor, and everything tied up into that, then you're not going to do the work because you don't care. You don't need to. You need the shortcut. So what we really have to work on is selecting people and educating people who actually want to do the thing. They want to do the job. They don't want the shortcut. They want to do the work because they actually want to be known for being excellent. And this is what the founders understood about fame. They knew that there'd be all kinds of ambitious people out there who get into politics because they want their name to be known. They have some kind of drive in them. But they also knew that drive could be used for good or evil. You can use that and channel it in a way where you build incredibly successful companies that do good in the world. You can use that to become a statesman who provides, a lot of good for millions of people throughout the world. Or you can use that to be corrupt, right? To take power beyond what you should have and actually be destructive to everyone else around you. So how do you channel that ambition? Because we want ambitious people in a good way. We want driven people in the way. How do you channel that ambition? Well, you tie the reward to actually doing the job. And that's what we have to do. We all have a part to play in that, in media and in the audience at home. Stop rewarding people who don't actually do the job, because there's lots of them, and they'll seem pretty on TV, right? They'll say nice things, but when they don't actually, there's no results tied to their name. We need to stop rewarding them just because they're MAGA or they're Maha. It doesn't matter, right? If they're on your team, we need to get those people aside, and as they say, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way.
Well, I remember, because this is how my brain works, so the exact tweet that Bedford was referencing when he was talking about this, my friends, they read all the books. Well, it was Clint Brown, who we've had on this show several times before. He's the one who reads all of the old Senate books, and our muckety-muck Gaston Mooney was engaging in that tweet. And they were like, oh, I did this too back in the day. So another cheat code that you can use to actually help yourself level up is go through and follow the people who know more things than you. So if you're interested in nerdy Senate stuff, Clint Brown, Gaston Mooney, those are your guys.
All those Conservative Partnership Institute people are fantastic because they actually know things. So that's Rachel Bovard. I mean, Chris Bedford himself is associated with them. Gaston Mooney. Clint Brown is exactly one of those guys who's one of the few gurus who actually understands this stuff. And once you realize who they are, and that's our job. So this goes to right what I was saying, Jill. Our job is to highlight for you the people who, I don't care if their name is known or they're some kind of MAGA celebrity. I really don't give a crap about that. I want to know that they know something about something, and that's why we bring these people to you, because they're people you can have the conversation all the way home. And I want to be around people who know more than I do about these subjects. And, really, when you say stuff on TV, you should know like 10,000 times more than that. It's a goal that we aspire to. But when you have a guest, that guest really has to know. And you wouldn't know otherwise, because who's highlighting these people? Because no one cares, which is the whole problem in the first place. So Blaze Media, we're going to keep looking for those people and bringing them to you.
Yes, and as they say, DC is Hollywood for all the ugly people. So you want to be an influencer? Go ahead and go to DC. This is what's happening.
What I don't understand is why more people want to have an ice cold drink with you, a martini, and more people should want to come read old books with me on the weekends. I don't understand.
Well,
both are good.
I think both have their time and place. It's fine, MP. But when you look at it, like just trying to go through and get more confidence in our society, I don't know if the Chat GPTs of the world is going to help with this, because I saw the latest statistics that are coming out that are like, the kids' brains that are using Chat GPT, totally like fine. Neurons in their brain totally are fine. Not connecting to like the memory recall, and like kids will write an entire paper and they can't tell you like a sentence that they wrote in the entire thing.
See, you can use
future.
You can use AI because your brain is always connecting things.
Yes.
Like if you don't know this, Jill's always connecting things and always working on something, some kind of puzzle.
Yeah.
But if you haven't done that your whole life, and then you're just growing up using the AI, I think people lose that ability.
Yeah. All the puzzles. They need to be solved, people. You can't just keep using ChatGPT. They're not going to figure everything out for you. Sometimes we have to use our own brains. I guess we'll have to keep it going for one more day. Thanks so much for watching here, everybody. We'll see you back here. Not MP, though. Chris Bedford will be in tomorrow.
Using our own brains.